Now, Chris Daines, who has bipolar disorder, has been keeping an audio diary for us for the past 6 months with occasional help from his wife and carer, Ruth. He's been trying to document his experience of living with the illness, its crushing lows of depression and the manic episodes which follow. Well, he agreed to do it to try and improve people's understanding of the disorder. So to find out how he thinks it's been going so far, Peter White went to visit him and his wife.
It's quite a peculiar thing to feel that one's bearing one's soul in front of so many millions of people. But you don't really feel about it when you've got the microphone in front of you, so you can sort of forget you're doing that. And I think that talking through the experiences can have quite a cathartic and therapeutic effect.
Given that it's about being up and being down, when are you most likely to record?
Well, when I'm up, definitely. I find it extremely difficult to record when I'm down. And often I have to remember what it was like, although I did make one tape when I was very down. I think I cried, didn't I? And I was quite embarrassed about it at the time.
I mean, how easy is it to recreate when you're up how you feel when you're down?
I think when you're up, you, in a sense, you can't remember the down times, but you can think themselves into them imaginatively and try to communicate what it feels like. I think most people actually know what it feels like to be depressed because of grief or bereavement or whatever it is. I think it's much more difficult to understand the manic stages.
You wanted this to have an effect on people. I mean, the reason you agreed to it was that you felt that there were important things that people understood. Do you feel that it is achieving that?
I hope so, and one's encouraged by the feedback that we've been getting. So, yeah, I think the things that one wanted to communicate, the idea that people with mental illnesses aren't monsters, I very much hope that they've come across, and that one has, in a sense, done some sort of penance thing for having behaved so badly before one's medication, almost that I feel I owe it to society to make up for it in some extraordinary way, and all the people once hurt and things like that.
So in a sense, you see it as trying to explain yourself.
Oh yes, yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Actually, it's sort of existential examination.
Ruth, you're married to Chris. What was your attitude to Chris doing this? Did you have reservations? What did you feel about it?
I had no reservations initially. I had some slight reservations as it went on because Chris was worried that he might appear to be completely off the radar as far as sanity was concerned. And he was also worried that he was exposing the very vulnerable side of himself. It's my responsibility a lot of the time to monitor how Chris's health is, really. When he recorded those down times, it was very difficult.
Were you tempted at those times to say, you don't actually have to do this?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. I did say those things, but I also think that it's important. There are a lot of people out there with very similar problems who have no outlet. I think it's really important that there is a point of contact and people go, well, actually, I feel a bit relieved because there's someone that I can relate to.
What other reaction have you had?
People have actually come into me and said, I've heard your husband on the radio and it's brilliant. I was incredibly moved by it. I really understand what's going on. But there is the downside. We have had people who have been quite cruel, who have accused Chris of being a liar, of being all sorts of things that he simply isn't.
And how do you interpret those? Why would people say that kind of thing?
I think that people have a deep misunderstanding of mental health issues. They want to label you as he just likes to cause trouble. They have no concept of what it's like to actually have a brain that malfunctions.
Chris, are there ever times when you think, I really wish I hadn't agreed to do this? This is an intrusion.
Frequently. And I've thought, why should I be the performing monkey of you and yours? And I thought, I really don't want to do this. I'm so fed up with it. And then I get sort of, well, if I don't do it, then I'm not fulfilling what I'm meant to be doing. Now, that has had an effect on my mood. I have to say that has been an extra reason to be depressed sometimes.
But there seemed to be a sense there when you were saying, but that it was also a motivation as well. So.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, I know myself that because my mood goes up and down, I will inevitably look at something in a brighter light and then something in a negative light. So I'm quite used to that polarity.
I suppose in a way I'm asking you the rather risky question, are we interfering?
I'm going to have to ask my consultant, but he thinks it's a pretty cool idea. I don't think there's much risk, and if there were a risk, I think that mental health team would be knocking at your door pretty quickly.
Are there still things that you feel that still need to be explained?
I'd really like to talk about the dose of alcohol and how that can have a very bad effect on people who have mental illnesses. And I want to talk a bit about money. I have a very bad record with money. And I would also like to talk about sexuality and mental illness, perhaps touch on that.
Well, that was Chris Daines, and in the coming weeks you'll get the chance to hear Chris reflect on some of those subjects, as he mentioned. As always, do email us your thoughts via the website bbc.co.uk/radio4/you and your